Welcome back to Annie Recapped. Today we will cover part 2 of Zetman. Make sure to watch part 1, I will put the link in the comment section. Let's begin. Now absolutely complete, the Zetman is in a striking red color and hops off to finish the players for good. Meanwhile, Alphys runs into the shrimp player who gets irritated that a mere human cosplaying is going to fight him. Inside his suit, Kuba is bewildered to see the guy transform into a monster before brandishing his sword and clashing with it. While they clash, the other minion, Roach player, weakly makes his way toward Tanaka to finish her off when Zetman intercepts him. His ring glows, forcing the player to revert to a monster, and Zetman jumps onto him, almost killing him when CG appears in the shadows. He comments on how he's used the two minions to study Zetman and is sure he can revert players, forcing them into monstrification. However, once Zet kills the player and jumps after him, CG hops away, saying he's a different kind of player and can't be reverted. Back at the bar, the Eviolo boss is informed about CG's doings and the red Zetman. He summons him immediately. As Kanova's friend sits shocked, Kanova fights for her life on the medic table. At the Alphys headquarters, they are told of her condition and realize that Kuba's Alphys suit is taking damage as he fights the shrimp player. His suit efficiency is connected to his will, and as he gets discouraged, the efficiency goes down. Hayami immediately tells him that he saved Konohara his morale, but just as he faces the player again, Zetman drops in, kicking him off. Kuba is surprised to see a new creature, but he notices the glowing ring and doubts. The player rises again, this time sprouting minion shrimps. Zetman informs about the player's ability to transfer into minion players to Kuba and asks him to lend his strength. As the two clash, the player manages to pierce through Zetman, causing him to turn into a white Zet. Unknown to them, they are being watched by the same strange man who has reached Kuba and is parked in a parking lot with a mysterious person. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Konoha's mother arrives, hugging her friend who gives her the necklace that Konoha had wanted to return to Jin. Back outside, Jin, now a white Zetman, flips over to try and grab Alpha's sword stuck in the wall. As Kuba handles the minion shrimps, Jin flips, piercing the player's heart and ending his life for good. With the clash ending, both the Alphys headquarters and Mitsugai's lab are bewildered by the events. In the parking lot, CG converses with the man, discussing that they can also use Kuba for their purposes. CG turns to the mysterious person, Ichiro, and asks him to be nice to Kuba. Meanwhile, Jin finally disintegrates into human form, but his Zet factors remain the same, making Kuba realize it was him all along. He tearfully holds his old friend. The two then stumble back to the site and find his stripped Tanaka sprawled with all the critters turned to dust. As Jin carries out Tanaka in his arms, he and Alphys find the band of the homeless outside. They thank Alphys and call Tanaka Jin's GF, making her blush. However, Mitsugai's men arrive, telling both Kuga and Jin to come along. Kuba asks Mitsugai to spill all the truth behind Jin and the players. Meanwhile, Tanaka is made to believe that her visions were hallucinations at the hospital. The EVO boss also confronts CG on his doings, who cunningly curbs, saying he was just trying to stop the players and never incited the Zetman clash. He then asks him to leave Zet to him, calling Zet one of them. Later, at the Amaji Corporation, the president is briefed about the situation by Hayami and Kabe. Hayami reveals that he had been funded to make Alphys for the corporation's image and Kuba's future by the president. As they leave, Kabe expresses disappointment for Hayami keeping Alphys a secret. However, Hayami remarks that it's because he's too close to the president and he wants Kuba to be an ally of justice when he takes over the corporation. Konoha finally wakes at the hospital and asks for Kuga and Jin. Outside, Jin and Kuga meet as Kuba reveals that he now knows the truth, flipping out a cartoon of Zetman and excitedly expressing that they should fight the injustice together like old times. Though Jin is quite awkward about Kuba's childlike endeavor, the two soon meet Konoha, but play dumb as if not knowing anything about the situation. Kuba decides to keep fighting as Alphys beside Jin, and Jin leaves to receive Tanaka, who's getting discharged. However, he runs into Mitsugai, who asks him to break up with her as decided before. Meeting Tanaka, Jin gets a feeling of family and tells her to wait for him. Unknown to him, the saddened Konoha watches the two from behind a wall. Soon, together with Kuga, Jin is taken by Mitsugai back to the labs to be inspected. At the labs, while Zet is being inspected, Mitsugai explains how Zetman came as an outcome of experiments on Net, an unearthly human creature. As they sit there suddenly after ages, Jai-chan finally responds through his brain data. Jin immediately grows erratic hearing him and demands to know where Jai-chan is. Mitsugai quietly opens the way to him, and Jin arrives at the preserved cubicle holding Jai-chan's head for brain data. He's shocked to see him in such a state. But Mitsugai asks him to convince Ji about him being a Zetman and help him transform into a complete form to defeat the players. However, Jin unplugs and kills Jai-chan, saying that he should rest in peace as Kuba utters that Mitsugai is wicked. Once Jin returns to the lab, he's told of Ji-chan's last words. He has given him the hint of red stone. The red stone in Ji-chan's pendant that Konoha currently has. Unaware as Konoha lies in bed thinking about Jin and Tanaka, an invisible armored robot makes its way into the Amaji's home. Seiji has created a form, and under his orders, the figure makes its way inside the Amaji's house. It soon spots Konoha and takes off his suit to reveal to be a clone of Jin. Konoha wakes up and he asks for the pendant back. Meanwhile, Mitsugai, the scientist, Kuga, and Jin are making their way to the Amaji home too. Jin enters to find Kuga and Konoha's mother worried when suddenly two clones of Jin jump in front of them, transforming into monsters. It's revealed that they were made from incomplete set factors. Immediately, Kuga and Jin clash with them when the scientist sacrifices his life to save Mitsugai, who gets gravely injured. As Mitsugai and the mother are taken to safety, Jin and Kuga eliminate the Zet clones. They hurry to Konoha's room to find her afraid of Jin, and the pendant is gone. Outside, the strange man has hold of the pendant, and with Seiji snickering, they blow up the Amaji home. Meanwhile, Tanaka abandons her home again and collapses from a headache while missing Jin. At the hospital, Mitsugai worries about how the info about the pendant was leaked and where the opponents are getting funds from to create Zet clones, but Kuga, with his nauseating justice fever, ensures he and Jin will fight against it. Jin, too, joins in. However, Konoha finds it hard to cope with the secrets and squabbles to know more. Nevertheless, Mitsugai is sent back while Kuga keeps details from the president and Cabe. Jin soon leaves but is greeted by the EVO boss from the shadows. Immediately he gets on his toes, but the boss assures him that he's not violent. He explains the EVO is to maintain peace between humans and players, yet Seiji is trying to upturn that. However, he admits that they can't compare to a player like Seiji and asks for Jin's help. Jin agrees to join. Back at the Alpha's headquarters, Kuga is told that the president has asked for all the Alpha's data, making him angry, knowing he's gonna put it to the wrong use. Luckily, Hayame agrees to help, but he seems sinister. At the chairman's office, Kuga and Konoha's mother arrives, making the president comment on her shabby clothes. She argues how he can overlook his own children for the corporation, to which he replies that Amaji Corporation is his child. While at the Alpha's headquarters, Kuga and his men are looking over possible addition to the Alphas when news comes in that Konoha has gone missing. That night, Jin returns home to find Tanaka already there. She annoyingly throws a pillow at him, complaining that he was supposed to come for her. Jin melts and accepts that he likes her, and the two kiss, deciding to be family. However, it's not late before Kuga gets a menacing call from the strange man telling him he knows where Konoha is, leaving him bewildered. Kuga reminisces when Konoha had told him that his justice ideals seem like he wants to seek praise. Thinking of it, Kuga decides to grow stronger for his sister and heads out with his crew to see the strange man. Meanwhile, at Jin's place, he and Tanaka lay together in bed discussing their future when Jin gets a call and is told that Konoha is missing. Outside, Kuga has been received by the man, but even though his crew tries tracking him, the system malfunctions and Kuga is put unconscious. Meanwhile, as Jin gets ready to head out, he tells Tanaka that he'll tell her all the truth about him once he's back before hugging her and leaving. Kuga wakes up on a bed and finds an earpiece put on him. From it, the man communicates to him, telling him that the test has begun. Kuga is irritated, but has no choice. With signals and contacts from the outside world disconnected, he makes his way, armed, down the corridor and opens the door to a party. He immediately notices it's all his fangirls, including Mayu. Kuga is extremely disturbed by this strange test, and as a stoic girl reaches him rudely asking for an autograph, he excuses himself to use the restroom, making the girls giggle. He is jostled, wondering what he should do, when he finds a girl telling him that she's suspicious of this place. She shows him a corridor that might lead to outside, and Kuga wonders if he should look for the strange man or keep by the girl's side. He remembers how Jin always prioritizes saving people and tells the girl to go ahead and contact the police if she reaches outside. Inside, he finds the girl snickering over a bedroom that has appeared, and as a girl jumps on it, she turns, telling Kuga he's wrong again, and a huge metal body squishes her to death. The girls, horrified, scream and make a run, and the stoic girl slaps Kuga, calling him a murderer. Once Kuga runs after the girls scampering in the corridor, Mayu calls the girl out for not even allowing Kuga to explain. However, she gets locked in the room by herself and finds an opening. Out in the corridor, a massive hammer giant show up, and Kuga is given a choice to leave the girls or look for the man. He opts to save the girls. Meanwhile, it's revealed that Konoha is at Akemi, and Akemi even receives a call from Jin saying he knows Konoha is there. Akemi is happy that Konoha finds her in trouble and tells her to have faith in Jin. But things flip soon and all media gets hacked by Seiji, who menacingly introduces EVOL, and that's when all players come out unleashing havoc and mass killing in crowds and in public. Poor Kuva fights the giant with tears as the man tells him his justice has a serious flaw. Jin races to the scene and, now transformed into Zetman, jumps onto a player, killing it, making CG exclaim and expose how the Amaji had created players before going out. Back at Jin's house, Tanaka is grabbed by a strange man. Meanwhile, Kuga, powered by his justice, finally kills the Hammerhead, not noticing that a small insect-like critter already exited its body. In the control room, the man and Ichiru watch him when Ichiru winces in pain. The man then tells Kuga that he's lost the test again, but agrees to let the girls go. However, just as the girls pass by the corridor, shooting laser cuts them into blocks of meat. Kuga collapses to the ground in tears and a shocked state of mind at his inability to save them, only to turn and find Mayu behind him, unaware that the insect has taken over her. Mayu then leads him as Kuga warningly follows. Outside in public, Zetman is being booed when he transforms into Jin, surprising them. In time, the kind inspector finds Jin and announces that he's in his custody before bringing him with him. Jin asks him to take him to the Amaji Tower. At Akimi's, as the television announces that Amaji is to hold a press conference, Kanawa calls her mother. Back at the test building, Mayu takes Kuga to the man before turning the gun onto him. The man then finally reveals that he's Nakata and his son Ichiru. He reasons that Kuga's flaw is that he only means to fight and uses the excuse of justice, always looking for evil in order to execute his ideals. He exposes that he was left behind underground to die by the Amaji Corp when he wanted to tell the public about the players. Abandoned, his son was almost dead when he managed to survive by implanting player abilities. Soon they were found by Seiji and joined him to take revenge on the Amaji Corp. Hearing this, Kuga is bewildered, only to grow even more surprised when Hayami appears. Ichiru then reveals that he's controlling Mayu with a piece of him as Mayu places the gun on her head. Angered, Kuga confronts Hayami, who turns out to be helping Nakata in order to take over Amaji Corp. Nakata turns the TV on to show the president holding a press conference denying the players, but Cabe, controlled by Ichiru, gets up, telling the truth before shooting himself. Hayami intended to use Kuga as a hero and created alphas all along to control him. However, before he can move forward, Kuga, bewildered, snatches the gun from Mayu and shoots all three of them. Finally exiting the building, Kuga brings Mayu outside to find his crew already there with his updated alphas. Meanwhile, at the press conference, Seiji has arrived, followed by Zetman, but it's only a matter of time before Jin realizes how strong Seiji is as he stabs him with his mere finger, rotting him with a black corrupting substance. With the black substance rotting Jin, he collapses. Outside, Kuga quickly dresses up in his updated limiter alphas and flies off to the Amaji Tower. Inside, Seiji brings out a red stake made out of the red stone and questions if Jay-chan wanted Jin to remain human, then why he would leave behind the red stone. It angers Jin, but just as Seiji is about to stab the stake onto Jin, Alphas finally barges in. Horrifyingly, the president suddenly yells, asking Alphas to kill Jin since he's the root of all evil. It angers Koba so badly, knowing that his father is the reason behind this chaos. Seeing that he won't listen to him, the president even asks his arms to turn guns at Alphas and kill his own son. However, Kuga, frustrated, aims at his own father and shoots only for his mother to take it, but the president also takes the next shot. Jin is bewildered to see Kuga lose his mind, who's now pointing at an amused Seiji. Exclaiming, Seiji announces it as the age of players before one of the players throws around explosives and members of the public erupt into their player forms. Outside, Konoha has reached the foot of the building and insists on being let in. Meanwhile, as Alphas and the players fight in the building, Jin struggles when Seiji himself drops the red stake down toward him. That's when the inspector and Konoha arrive, making Seiji exclaim at the new guests. He menacingly comments how Zetman and the humans are gonna die. But Jin refuses to let anyone die and inches at the stake. Seiji then reveals that he can either die or take the stake and turn into Zetman's complete form, Charisma. However, Charisma is humankind's evil and the player's justice. Once he's taken it, he'll be one of the players. Jin thinks he doesn't want to die, unable to help anyone, and still goes for the stake, but Alpha shoots at him, yelling how he can accept such evil. However, Seiji is devilish, and to incite Jin further, he brings in Tanaka. Disturbed, Jin then decides to take the red stake and asks Alphas to kill him if he turns into a monster before stabbing himself with it. Once again, his body squirms and winces in pain as a massive blast shakes the whole city around. Alphas wait, ready to shoot Zetman now in his red form, when Jin assures that he's himself. However, the ring on his hand soon resonates and every single player around him starts turning into a player that can never turn back to human form. Seiji himself turns into a white player, including Tanaka, who morphs into a massive sand player. Seeing herself, she freaks out and starts turning everyone into sand. It turns out that Tanaka all this time was a plot to lure Jin into joining the players. Seiji then tries to twist Ji-chan's lessons to Jin by saying that he taught him to save humans so he could one day realize how evil they are. But Jin refuses to believe, and with that, zuns at Seiji to attack. Fending off Zet's attack, Seiji continues to mock him, trying to incite him to kill Tanaka. However, just as Jin's battling with Seiji, Alphys, in his erratic justice fever, comes at Tanaka, slicing her fatally and putting her on a deathbed. Seeing that, Zetman goes into complete shock, wailing for Tanaka as Seiji takes a step back to see his dream of awakening charisma unfold before him. Behind them, Konoha and the inspector sit by her injured mother. Seiji exclaims, seeing Zetman finally descend into madness as Kuba takes over, battling Seiji. Avoiding his attacks, he thanks him for awakening Jin. The inspector then asks Konoha's mother why she was shot with a gunshot, making her reply that her son finally followed his own kind of justice before passing away. Nevertheless, Seiji finally pins Kuba down, asking Zet to come and finish him. But just as Jin swings to kill Kuba, Konoha yells, making him direct the attack to Seiji and finally throwing him down injured. Laughing, Seiji goes down, reasoning that he's happy if his death means the rise of charisma. With Seiji now gone, Alphys turns on to Zetman, saying that he can't take a risk and let charisma reap and be a danger to humanity. Kuga is no longer cool-headed and has gone maniac in his justice fever. He holds up his gun, ready to shoot Jin, and fires. 3 years later, Kuga is now the president of the Imagi Corporation and sits in his room when Mayu enters. The two stand discussing the events. After the fateful day, many lives fell, and people are beginning to forget the night. However, Alphys continues to eradicate the players left behind and is hailed as a hero. But Kuba wonders if it's really him or from the shadows. It's Zet who does the most work. That night, Alphys had shot Zetman, but he dodged it, almost turning into charisma and killing him. But Jin was raised by Ji-chan as a human before a player. He was able to break charisma and gain control, leaving and vanishing for good. Mitsugai, who had arrived, reasoned that as long as he followed Ji-chan's teaching, he would never be a harm to humanity. Down in the port area, Konoha continues to do volunteer work with Ahimi, while the inspector still hasn't given up on finding Jin. Meanwhile, Jin continues to save people from the shadows, taking out players by forcing them to convert with his ring and killing them. One night, two guys try to get girls to go with them when Zetman arrives, converting the girls into players and killing them, unaware that someone similar to Seiji seems to be watching him. Jin is then reached by the sweeper, saying that the Eviola master would like to meet him, but Jin refuses, saying he would revert if he meets him. It revealed that they'd made a pact to look over Kuga. Hence, that's how Jin continues living in the shadows and helping for no gain but pure humanity. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this recap. Make sure to subscribe to Annie Recap for more similar videos. Part 3 will be online soon, so make sure to turn on your notifications. Bye.